Good afternoon, you guys. It is Phoenix for All Talk Wrestling, and today I'm going to be bringing you a review of AEW's Revolution pay-per-view that took place yesterday, March 7th, 2021. And I'm going to be going over the entire pay-per-view, match by match, just tell you guys what I think about it. I'm going to try and keep the video short, sweet, to the point. Just going to be rating every match on a 5-star basis, just how I felt about the match altogether, just to kind of see what you guys think about it. This is going to be the first pay-per-view rating video that I'm going to do, so hopefully I can start doing these a little bit more for all AEW, WWE, NXT, and Impact pay-per-views moving forward. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe on the channel, comment on the video if you have any agreement or disagreement with the things that I say. But with that being said, let's dive right into it. All right, so forgive me if I botched some of these names, but I'm going to start out with the buy-in portion of the pay-per-view. It was the tag team match between Dr. Britt Baker, MDM, and Maki Ito versus Rio and Thunder Rosa. Now, this was a pretty good match altogether, tag team match, just to kind of kick things off. Personally, I kind of like Dr. Britt Baker, MDM, or DMD, and I like Thunder Rosa too. I think Thunder Rosa could be a real big star with AEW moving forward, just like on the women's side. So it'll be kind of interesting. I mean, of course she lost the match, but it'll be kind of interesting to see how they move forward with her. See if she eventually gets into that women's championship picture. I would definitely like to see it, but it wasn't a bad way in order to start the match. I'd probably give it maybe 2.5 stars more than anything else. I mean, it wasn't super exciting. It was kind of slow paced, but it was still a good match. It was respectable enough in order to make mention of. Kicking off the pay-per-view, we had the Young Bucks versus Chris Jericho and MJF for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. Now, this was actually a pretty good match. A good tone setter in order to start the night. I'm not going to lie. Chris Jericho and MJF have surprisingly good chemistry together as a tag team. And of course, the Young Bucks, they bring one of the best dynamics as a tag team to all of professional wrestling. So you knew what you were going to get out of them. Absolutely loved the match. I felt like one of the issues that I had with it is that with all things considered, it was a lot of Wardlow that was kind of making his way into the match, like different ways over and over. And I felt like that kind of diluted it a little bit, but for the most part, it was a really solid match. I would say I'd give it a good 3.5 stars, maybe even 4 stars just for that match altogether. It was at the pace that I thought it was going to be for an older Chris Jericho versus a younger Young Bucks team, also having a younger partner in MJF. I really thought that they were going to win the tag team championships. There was a bunch of close falls that they had, like near falls, that were kind of going into it, but at the end of the day, Bucks hit the Meltzer driver, pinned Chris Jericho. Kind of a veteran thing. He took the pin, but you know, it is what it is. We'll see what ends up coming with the Inner Circle. I know they have the meeting that they got to do on Wednesday, so I'm looking forward to that. But for this night, I give a 3.5 or 4 stars, a solid. Next up, we had the Casino Tag Team Royale. Now, this was the most fun match of the night, and my pick for this match almost won. So it got me invested as the match continued to go on. For the match, we had the Natural Nightmares, the Dark Order. I think it was 5 and 10 who entered first. Then we had the Inner Circles, Santana and Ortiz, who I think should have put on a better showing than they did, but not going to complain too much. The Seidel brothers end up making their way into the fray next. Then you had the Dark Orders, Evil Uno and Stu Grayson, who came in afterwards. The Gun Club, Austin and Colton Gunn, which, by the way, they look just like their pops. Then you had Pretty Picture that came in after them. The Varsity Blondes ended up making their way. Griff Garrison and Brian Pillman Jr. Bear Country was the next entry to come in. Then Jurassic Express, who by the way was my entry to win the whole thing. Unfortunately, they didn't. Then the Butcher and the Blade, Private Party, SCU ended up making their way into the fray. Death Triangle, and then the Dark Orders, Alex Reynolds and John Silver were the last entries to come through. The match ultimately came down to three competitors. Death Triangle, you had the Bastard Pack, Ray Phoenix, and Jungle Boy from Jurassic Express, who were all left in the match. Jungle Boy got an elimination on Pack, and then Ray Phoenix and Jungle Boy had a good showing at the end. Ultimately, Jungle Boy was eliminated by Ray Phoenix. So Ray Phoenix and Pack, the Death Triangle, will be receiving a future AEW Tag Team Championship match. But that was definitely one of the most interesting matches, one of the most fun matches. I'd give it a solid 4. Definitely a solid 4 on the night. So yeah, there's that. The next match we had on the card is Hikaru Shida versus Ryu Mizunami for the AEW Women's Championship. So this was a brilliant women's championship match that had very good storytelling behind it too. It was something to be super invested into. Ryo Mizunami having the history with Shida on the fact that she had beaten her every time that they had faced off against each other. And Haruka Shida had the demons that she had to exercise by beating Mizunami in a fantastic back and forth match. There was a lot of near falls. There was very few times in that match that I thought that Ryu had a chance at winning. Unfortunately, she didn't get the job done, but it was really good to see her have the showing that she did in a 20+ minute match for the AEW Women's Championship. I'm really hoping that she gets featured a little bit more on AEW programming because, most people say the women's division can use a bolster. I think that she immediately makes it interesting and sparks it as well. So I would say that match was a solid 4 stars as well, just on the night as well. So next on the card, we had Miro and Kip Sabian versus the Best Friends, Chuck Taylor and Orange Cassidy. Now, in some ways, you can kind of say that this was a bit of a piss break match because there really wasn't a lot behind it. I mean, the story behind it is wonky. I like Orange Cassidy. I also like Miro, and I think Kip Sabian is a future star at AEW. But there wasn't a lot for me to get invested behind this match. It was kind of quick as it needed to be. There was a beatdown that happened before the match even started. So, at that point in time, the writing was pretty much on the wall as far as what was going to happen. Chuck Taylor took the vast majority of that match at the beginning. Kip Sabian ended up, Miro ended up getting the submission victory against Taylor. Orange Cassidy had a showing. He did his fun thing. I feel like he needs to be better utilized, but I get his character, so I'm not going to say too much about that. But yeah, this is like a solid 1 star for me. It really wasn't super interesting of a match. Like I said, it kind of felt a little bit like a piss break match, but that's just all I got to say about that. Next up, we had Hangman Adam Page versus Big Money Matt Hardy. Okay, so this match was super fun as well. The stipulation to it was if Matt Hardy lost to Adam Page, he would lose his first quarter earnings to Hangman Adam Page. So they had a good back and forth. And for Hardy to be the veteran that he is, he can still put on a decent match, over 10 minutes. I mean, he has the endurance to do so. And throughout the entire match, I just look at Hangman Adam Page like he's a future star for this company. Of course, he's doing the things that he's doing now, and I would say within the next year, you can probably see him competing for the AEW World Championship. Maybe if they keep it on Omega, then that's going to be the guy that he ends up challenging. I think they're just doing the right thing by slow building Hangman Adam Page in order to get to that spot. But for this match itself, I mean, we got the interference by Private Party. You know, they've been aligning themselves with Matt Hardy, but Dark Order came out to give the assist to Hangman Adam Page, and me, like everybody else who's a fan of AEW, is looking for the time that Adam Page ends up officially joining and leading the Dark Order, which I think are making their transition to an eventual face team from when they were heels when Brody Lee had them, rest his soul. But for this match, I give it a solid 3 stars. It was good. It was well put together. Matt Hardy and Hangman Adam Page worked really well together. There was a point in the match, like close to the end, where I really thought that Hardy was going to win, but ultimately it never came to be. So, but solid match altogether, 3 stars. Coming up next, we had the Face of the Revolution ladder match for the future TNT Championship opportunity. Now, this match featured Cody Rhodes, Penta El Zero Medeo, I don't know if I got that right, sorry, Lance Archer, Max Caster, Scorpio Sky, and a newly signed to AEW Ethan Page, which I thought was an amazing addition to AEW. Ethan Page has been killing it on the independent scene. I remember his time in Impact Wrestling. He's really good, and he brought a different element to that ladder match as well. So I appreciated it. I liked every bit of that. Cody Rhodes ended up taking a Canadian Destroyer on the ladder, which immediately to me looked like it was the spot of the night. I thought that he had broke something bad. He ended up getting taken to the back, and he was out of the match for a good little while, but I kept saying, hey, this is the setup. He's going to go to the back. He's going to make his big return. Cody Rhodes is going to win the match. It's going to be the worst thing ever. Penta had a hell of a showing in that as well, and I've always appreciated everything Penta has done. He's a future star with that company as well. But at the end of the day, Scorpio Sky, which, by the way, I had tweeted out was my pick to win, died for like 10 minutes of the match, but then ended up at the end of it all securing the brass ring over Cody Rhodes, and he will be receiving the TNT Championship opportunity on Wednesday. So Darby Allin versus Scorpio Sky is the match that we're going to get on Wednesday. I'm going to be looking forward to that. That seems like it's going to be a really good one. Next up, we had the reveal of the new talent that's going to be in AEW, and it was no one other than Christian Cage. Now, for some people, the signing was a little underwhelming. They think to themselves, there's a great talent, future Hall of Famer that's going to be signing to AEW. Most people thought Brock Lesnar. Folks like myself thought CM Punk, but it was Christian Cage that ultimately signed with AEW. And I'm not even going to lie to you. That's a great pickup. Christian has always been good outside of WWE. I followed a lot of his run as Christian Cage in TNA, and he shows on a consistent basis that he's a great worker, that he can be a great world champion if you give him the opportunity. He just never really got that opportunity in WWE outside of 2 world championship runs. You know, he was a small fish in the big pond. So I believe that even if it's not to be put into world championship consideration, Christian Cage is going to give a boost to the roster itself and to any talent that he goes against. He'll make them look like $1 million. So don't cry about it. We were all happy when Christian came back at the Royal Rumble. I'm super happy at the fact that he's going to be a part of AEW's talent pool, and I'm really hoping to see good things from him and from the company moving forward. Next up, we had the street fight between Team Taz and the father-son duo of Darby Allin and Sting. Now, this match, for all intensive purposes, and I think for the embetterment of Sting, was a cinematic movie-style match that a lot of people critique WWE for running all the time. So, I'm just going to go ahead and put this out for the review itself. If you enjoyed this match, but criticize anything that WWE does similar to this, then I don't want to hear it. Don't be a hypocrite. This was a fantastic match altogether. Yeah, just leave that alone. But anyways, the match itself was good. I enjoy matches like this. I'll always watch matches like this. I've been watching them since like TNA has been doing the Broken Universe matches, the things that Matt Hardy always had going on. But I didn't mind it. Brian Cage spent the vast majority of the match beating the piss out of Darby Allin, but Sting was definitely beating down on Ricky Starks, and they were having a good back and forth. They alternated between each other. I thought that somebody was getting thrown out the window because they teased it a few times. Definitely, like, eventually looking for that spot. But eventually had a run-in from hooks, and of course you had Will Hobbs that was making his assist as well. But ultimately, Sting, Darby Allin, they were able to get the win. I thought it was a really well put together match. I'd say it was like a 3.5 stars, just to be completely honest with you. Maybe it was some of the CGI to the camera angles that they were using that kind of made it a little bit weird for me, but ultimately I appreciate the match. I enjoyed it. Now I feel like there's an opportunity in time for them to move off of the Sting and Darby Allin versus Team Taz storyline. You can potentially still run that, but at this point in time, because Team Taz got lost against Darby Allin and Sting, I think that all factions involved need to start moving forward with something else. But for this match, 3.5 stars. I really did enjoy it. And finally, we had the AEW World Championship match between Kenny Omega and Jon Moxley and an exploding barbed wire death match. Okay, so everybody's dragging this match just because of the way that it ended. And I'm not going to let what looked like a potentially botched finish on what was supposed to happen in the match take away from what I thought was a fantastic, well put together, brutal, not for the faint of heart, I'd watch it 5 to 10 times over type of match between Mox and Omega. They really tore it down. The spots where they don't want to go into the barbed wire, even the spots where they did run into the barbed wire, Moxley is the first one to take the exploding barbed wire, and like it looked exactly how I thought it was. Kenny Omega, as he tried to slap on a figure 4, ended up taking the barbed wire twice, and he caught them explodes. It was really interesting that Kenny Omega took a paradigm shift on the outside where the barbed wire also exploded, and he landed smack on the top of his head on that barbed wire. Like I didn't know how he was able to finish it, because he definitely looked like he got cut, and that match just did not look like it could have been comfortable. As it seems like Mox was getting close to the win, there was an interference from the Good Brothers, the Impact World Tag Team Champions, Doc Gallows and Carl Anderson, which I guess it kind of makes sense because they aligned themselves with Kenny Omega, but it just didn't make sense, and it kind of diluted the win a little bit for me, just off the strength that there hasn't been any consistent storylines between AEW superstars going over to Impact in certain facets, but the Good Brothers are the ones who continuously make their way over to AEW. So I know that they have a working relationship, but if they only have a working relationship where it benefits the Good Brothers to come to AEW and not have a good pool of their talent go to Impact to help elevate it just didn't make sense to me. And truth be told, a straight up win itself would have did Kenny Omega some justice, but it kind of made him look a little weak, in my opinion, to have Anderson and Gallows come out and make the save for him in order to win. So he ended up hitting Jon Moxley with a barbed wire bat that exploded. That spot was absolutely nuts. Also the spot where he hit the one-winged angel and Mox used the rope and exploded the barbed wire in order to get out of the predicament. So he didn't kick out. The one-winged angel is still one of the most overly protected finishers in all of wrestling. So there's that. But he ultimately hit the one-winged angel on the steel chair, and it was lights out. 1, 2, 3. Omega retained the fail-safe for the explosions. So they were going to detonate regardless. And as they were beating the crap out of Jon Moxley while he was handcuffed, you just knew that something bad was going to happen. And Eddie Kingston came out in order to make the save of Moxley. Like, that was a swerve for me, because they had what the Wrestling Observer called the feud of the year, which lets me know they don't watch all wrestling, but that's neither here nor there. That's another video for you guys. But that let me know that the feud of the year that they had kind of really wasn't much of anything, because Kingston came out in order to make the save, and when he covered up Mox, we got the big explosion. It really wasn't that big of an explosion, and there literally could have been something that caused it to not be what we thought it was going to be. I'm not going to complain about it, because like I said, it was a really good match. I'm not going to let one spot take away from what I thought was a fantastic pay-per-view and a fantastic main event to the pay-per-view. For the match, I give it a solid 4 stars. Just because it's the match itself. The ending had nothing to do with the match, so the match itself was 4. You can probably even argue 4.5 stars, but I'll give it a solid 4. The only reason I'm not going 4.5 is because, like I said, it was diluted a little bit just off the strength that the Good Brothers interfered in the match. It makes sense for Omega's character, but I just didn't like it. I would have liked to see him beat Moxley straight up in order to solidify himself as a legitimate champion in AEW. But he has an opportunity to do that moving forward. That's just me. And that's my review of AEW's Revolution pay-per-view. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Like the channel, like the video, continue to subscribe to the channel. I'll continue to put out wrestling content for you guys as much as I possibly can. Like I said, this is my first review that I'm doing for a pay-per-view. All in all, I give the pay-per-view a solid 3.5 stars. I'll give it a solid 3.5 stars. It was hit. It could hit a little bit more. It hit for the most part. All the matches were fantastic, with the exception of one. I didn't give a rating on the Face of the Revolution ladder match. That match, in my opinion, was a 5-star match. Not like the greatest of all time, but it was a 5-star match. So I'll go ahead and put it like, for the matches of the night. To me, it was the match of the night. It was the best match, and it had the best result. I can't wait to see how they use Scorpio Sky. But like I said, we'll go ahead and chuck it up to that. Total pay-per-view, 3.5 stars. Let me know what you guys think. Thank you guys for sitting through this video. I appreciate it. You guys take care. See you later.